I've started and stopped recording this podcast like 6 times now. And you know what? This is probably the second time I have ever been nervous recording a podcast. The first time being the very first time that I recorded a podcast. And this time it's just for completely different reasons. Um, Today's podcast is going to be different. I am speaking from the heart exclusively. There is no podcast outline, um, no agenda of news to cover or topics to go over. But this is really, really personal. And that's why I'm not sharing it on social media, especially Instagram, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not ready for Instagram. I am not ready for the hatred that is sometimes held on the Instagram. um, but you guys are my podcast family, and you guys are amazing, and I love the amazing group that we make and the wonderful feedback you offer. So I am sharing it here, um, and I will maybe eventually share it in other places. But here, this is where I'm sharing this for now. So this podcast episode, not it might not be for you, but then again, it might be exactly what you needed to hear today. So here we go. Roughly about 2 months ago, I peed on a stick, and the answer was negative. And I was kind of disappointed. And I told my husband, we're not pregnant. Bummer. It was kind of exciting to think that we might be, but we're not. Then about a week later, I was bored and supposed to be unpacking my house. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pee on another stick. So I did. And I about fell off the toilet because that one said yes. And it had a plus sign. And I can't even describe to you, unless you're a woman and you've already felt these feelings, the extreme over the top euphoria that you feel when you find out that you're pregnant and you're welcoming life. Maybe not every pregnancy feels like that for every woman. But I was just so excited. So I peed on a second stick, and I was even more excited because that one confirmed what the first one said. Because what woman believes the first pregnancy test? Especially after getting a negative pregnancy test the week before. I guess I'd been a little too anxious and taken that test a little too early. And I had to wait an excruciating 3 hours until my husband got home from work late that night, probably like 10 o'clock at night. He got home. And I played it super cool, and I didn't tell him right away. I let him talk for about a half an hour about his day and how it'd gone and people he'd worked with. And then I was just like, hey, you know what? This whole moving process has been stressful, and probably in the last week, about 3 times, I've been sitting in the hallway floor crying about how stressful I am, and maybe a couple swear words have dropped. And I'm so sorry about that, sweetheart. Because we're a household that tries not to swear. I try not to swear. My husband doesn't swear at all, let's be honest. Um, Anyways, so after letting him talk for a minute, I said, well, I'm really sorry about the last couple of weeks. I've been a little bit crazy. I have a gift for you to make it up to you. I was like, close your eyes. I'm going to put something in your hands. And he told me later he thought it was a GoPro because he wants a GoPro. And he was really excited. But it wasn't. A couple of years ago, he and I had gone to Disney, and if you watch me on Instagram, you know that I go to Disney. We're season pass holders. We love to go to Disney World. And he had seen this adorable stuffed animal, and he's like, we should get that stuffed animal. And I'm just like, no, we're not stuffed animal people. We don't have any children. We're not buying stuffed animals. Like, please, honey, don't make me have stuffed animals in my house. And he was like, okay, fine. And, granted, this was a couple of years ago, and he's like, well, someday when we have children, let's buy this stuffed animal. And I was like, okay. So neither of us had forgotten about that. And I had gone and I purchased that stuffed animal. And so that night, I put it in his hands, and he opened it up. And I'm not going to share the next couple minutes because they're so precious to me, but let's just say we were both so unbelievably happy. It was just joy, just overflowing. And it felt like the most happy moment of our lives. Even past getting married, it was wonderful. Um, Sorry. Anyways, we decided not to tell anyone for a while because both of our parents were out of town. Mine live in Utah. His parents were vacationing in Utah. For some reason, everyone was in Utah. And so we decided to keep it to ourselves for a while. And we did a pretty good job. But then by the time I was about 7.5 weeks along, finally all of our parents were, for the most part, all gathered together. And we told them each in special ways. And all, our parents are absolutely overjoyed. It was going to be the first grandchild for both sets of parents, and we're just really, really happy. Um, Anyways, it's harder than I thought. We had done so much in preparing for this one, just in our lives and making plans. And anyways, we were going into our 10-week appointment, with our midwife, and we had that scheduled, but about 2 days before our gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Okay, pull it together, Elisa. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I really thought I was gonna hold it together. Yeah, but the long and short is we miscarried. And I I did not know what this would feel like. And this happened, last month. So it's been a few weeks. But I think after the initial grief and dealing with that the first week and the second week and the third week, after, you just take it one day at a time. But this is what I don't understand is I have learned some really interesting things about our culture, specifically how the pro-abortion culture has leaked into the rest of our world. Even our Christian conservatives, life begins at conception. I think that I never ever would have figured this out. I never would have known this. I never would have made these observations if I hadn't experienced it firsthand. And it just here's the thing. We say life begins at conception, but how many of us who haven't had children yet, who haven't ever miscarried, how many of us actually believe that? Because I don't know, I believe life begins, if you asked me a few months ago, life begins at conception, I would have said absolutely. But I don't think it really sinks in until later that life begins at conception. I think that even in our Christian pro-life brains, we think that life begins and it's not really real until later. And the reason why I say that is because I've made some observations about the language that we use when a woman miscarries that shock me, because I think back and I'm almost 100% certain I've used this exact same language, not knowing how it sounded. And so some of the things that I figured out, it literally floors me and is really difficult for me to comprehend how I can, at 10.5 weeks, lose my baby, and that can be life altering. But then a woman in an abortion clinic a mile down the street, she can just get rid of a clump of cells, and she's just aborting a clump of cells. And so how is it that our culture is so divided that on one hand we can mourn the loss of our child, and on the other it's a clump of cells just being gotten rid of? And I just want to, I know that I talk about this all the time and I've talked about this for years, but it's clearly not a clump of cells. And I think that even just sunk in more and more, over, a couple of months of being pregnant about what it means to say it's a clump of cells, because child's heartbeat starts so soon. They have their own fingerprint so early. They have their own DNA from conception. And I miscarried my baby at just over 10 weeks, or at 10 and a half weeks. And this is, if you're watching on YouTube, this is an app that I had on my phone. And this is, oh gosh, you can't even barely see it. This is what a 10-week-old baby looks like, right? Look at that. There are fingers and toes. That it is a fully formed human being. And that there, you can't deny the humanity. So I just think it's crazy that on one hand, a wanted child is mourned because you lost your child. And then on the other hand, it's just a clump of cells, and it's okay to get rid of it if it's inconvenient or it doesn't work with your life or wasn't what you wanted. So that's one thing. Another thing, to get down to it more, is language. Let's talk about language for a second. Some of the comments that have been made, I know that they were made with good intention. I know that the people who said these things to me meant nothing but love and kindness. But at the same time, it's just this pro-abortion choice culture its language has leaked into even our camp, and I find that to be crazy because I didn't even know this. So for instance, I found out some things like if you have a miscarriage, they don't call it a miscarriage medically. When you go in to get an ultrasound to confirm and make sure everything's flowing, with the miscarriage and you're not getting sick, they call it a missed abortion. A missed abortion? No, that wasn't a missed abortion. Nobody aborted my child and it was just missed. It was a fully wanted, fully human child, and it miscarried, but that's not an abortion. So we're fuzzying the language right there. Another thing is, there was one person in particular whom I know loves me, and I love this person, and they did not mean this with ill intent. So I did not say anything to this person at the time, and they said to me, Elisa, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I know you really had your heart set on a baby. And my mind just about blew when I heard that. And I was like thinking, and this was on the phone, and I was like, wait, what? I know you really had your heart set on a baby? No. First of all, I didn't have my heart set on a baby. I had a baby. It was my baby. It was fully human. Its life started at conception before I even knew it existed. Excuse me, I just snorted into the microphone. That's disgusting. But that baby was fully mine. And it was fully human. And I had a baby. And then my baby died. That's different than I had your heart set on a baby. No, I had a baby. So that's a little disconnect in language there. Another one was having my heart set on the baby. That one was just, she wasn't trying to be insensitive, but it was really insensitive. And I was just like, no, I didn't have my heart set on a baby. I had a baby. And it's not like having your heart set on a job promotion, or you had your heart set on moving, or you had your heart set on going to Disney. No. So some of the language that's used, or even, I personally didn't have these ones said to me, but the more I started getting into support groups and recovery after a miscarriage, you realize people say the most horrendous things with all good intention, like, it's okay, you'll have a healthy one next time, or it's okay, you probably won't miscarry again. It's like, what part are you missing? What part are you missing about try to console me by saying that I won't have a miscarriage again? What about this baby? It's like if you had 5 children and one of them died tragically in a car accident, and someone said, well, it's okay, your other 4 children probably won't die in the car accident. It's like, why would you say such a thing? What about the one that you fully loved and knew and was part of your life, even for its short time being here, and then it died? Why would you say something like that? That's horrible. Or yeah, I mean, just people say some of the most insensitive things, and they really are not trying to be rude or insensitive. But like I said, again, it is that that culture has seeped into not fully recognizing and acknowledging the humanity of an unborn child. And, I think at the end of the day, I know that I have said some of those, probably those same things. Or else, here's another one that I was thinking about that I probably said, is telling someone or describing a miscarriage as they lost their pregnancy. Think about that for a second. They lost their pregnancy. Like they lost their keys, they lost their wallet. No, you didn't lose a pregnancy. Your child died. You lost your child. That is a world of difference, saying you lost a pregnancy versus you lost your baby. You didn't lose a pregnancy. You were pregnant and now you're not anymore, but you didn't lose a pregnancy. You lost a child. Again, it's this detaching language, this language that tries to separate humanity and truly having a baby, as some people would think or say, from the humanity of you were a mother, you had a child, this was your baby, and now you don't have that baby anymore. So with that said, I am on a mission to stop using that language, because I know that I use a lot of incorrect language all the time. For instance, even in the adoption world, there's some language that pro-lifers are trying to get away from, like giving your baby up for adoption. It makes it sound like you're giving your baby away or something. So there's all kinds of language critiques that have seeped into various levels of the pro-life movement that I am trying to become more aware of and changing. Or for instance, instead of saying pro-choice, I refuse to say pro-choice. Pro-choice is my side. Pro-choice is pro giving the baby a chance at being adopted, pro keeping the baby, pro anything that gives that baby life. Those are real choices. So I refuse to call the abortion side pro-choice. They are not pro-choice, they're pro-murder. So I call them pro-abortion. That's a gentler way of saying it without calling everyone murderers, but saying it like it is, saying pro-abortion, because that's what they are. They are not pro-choice. So that's some language that I've been working on for quite some time now. But I think this miscarriage language is language that I never would have been aware of. I never would have known how deeply hurtful it could be, and I never would have known how desensitizing it is, how the entire language around a miscarriage, from calling it a missed abortion, trying to make abortion sound more tame. If a miscarriage is a missed abortion, is an abortion called like a chosen abortion, or a not missed abortion? Like, what is that called? So it is now my mission to start becoming more sensitive in every area concerning children, especially unborn children, about how we talk about this, because it can be very, very hurtful. And you know what? Maybe you're a man and maybe you're single, you've never even had a girlfriend or a wife miscarry. Maybe you're a young woman and you've never been through this, but for those of you women who have, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing this shirt. It says, "You are not alone," and it's a beautiful sage green. It's from Embrace Grace, and I'll tell you more about them maybe later on another episode or something, but they're a beautiful, heartwarming, beautiful, beautiful organization with a mission from God, and they work especially with churches and helping to change the language and the feel around the pro-life movement, and helping girls in the way that they most need it, and being encouraged and given the resources that they need. And you know what, for you ladies who have miscarried, because I understand that this is a very, very common thing to happen. The chances of miscarrying are very high, and if you've had children, or even if you haven't, again, with the language, I don't want to say you haven't had children, because I could never, now having been through this experience, I can't tell myself or even say those words to myself or to anyone else that you haven't had a child if you haven't given birth to a live child. It's another experience, and I understand it is different than raising children. I have not had the honor or privilege of raising a child. But again, changing language. I have had a child now, and I pray that there is, God always has a plan. And I know that there must be a reason for this. And I'm sure every single woman who's gone through this experience, whether you miscarried your baby at 2 weeks, well, it's actually not 2 weeks, there's technically no such thing, but let's say you miscarried your baby at 4 weeks and it was a chemical pregnancy, or you miscarried your baby 16 weeks, or you had a stillborn baby. I know that so many women have gone through these same feelings and maybe even harder than what I had to experience. But I want you to know that you're not alone. And I want you to know that I am so sorry if I have said or used language that was hurtful and offensive and dehumanizing to that child you lost. Really. Well, I know that this podcast is different than others, but I do want to never have a podcast. That came out wrong. I always want to have the podcast end with good in the world. So that is the one segment I am definitely keeping. So I want to share with you some good in the world. And this story is really, really touching. And I'm pretty sure a lot of things are making me emotional right now, especially anything that has to do with losing children. But this is about a family who lost their son, lost their brother, lost their family, and about forgiveness. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, heartwarming story, even if it breaks your heart just a little too. So, you might have seen this in the news because it definitely made headlines when it happened. But there was a man, or a Dallas cop. Her name is Amber. She accidentally walked into the wrong apartment and she shot a man in his apartment. His name was Brotham Jean, and he died really tragically. So his family has every reason to be vengeful, but instead his brothers offered a message of forgiveness. Also, I should have mentioned at the beginning, this is from IJR.com, an article from there. So then on Wednesday, this woman, unfortunately, I don't even want to say unfortunately, it's just all around it breaks your heart, but this woman was sentenced to serve 10 years for killing Gene in his apartment. The story caught national attention after it was revealed that Geiger had killed Gene after mistaking his apartment for her own and claiming he was an intruder. A judge quickly found out that Geiger was in the wrong, that's the woman, and convicted her of manslaughter. Before she received her sentence, Gene, that's the man who was shot, Gene's 18-year-old brother, Brandon Gene, took the stand to make a statement. Instead of shaming the woman, Geiger, for taking the life of his brother, he instead offered a message of love and forgiveness. And this is what it was. He said, I hope you go to God with all the guilt, all the bad things you've done in the past. Each and every one of us have done something we're not supposed to do. If you are truly sorry, I know, I can speak for myself, I know I forgive you. And I know that if you go to God and ask Him, He will forgive you. And I don't think anyone thinks that. Again, I'm speaking for myself and not even on behalf of my family, but I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not going to say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't going to say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you because I know that's exactly what Botham would have wanted you to do. Jean told Geiger that the best she could do would be to give her life to Christ. And then he posed a question before the judge. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug? Jean asked. His compassion drew the emotion of the whole courtroom, including the judge, who later joined the hug. This is so sad and so tragic, and I can't even imagine what that family is going through and what this woman is going through. But this is beautiful, and this is, I feel like, the epitome of good in the world. A man who can look into the woman's eyes who killed his brother and forgive her and tell her he doesn't want any harm for her. He loves her. He thinks that, God can forgive her. He can forgive her. He doesn't want her to go to jail. He wants what's best for her. That is beautiful. And I can only hope that someday I can have that kind of forgiveness in my heart for those who have just offended me. How many of us can even feel that way about those people who offend us? For those people who said hurtful things after our miscarriage, for those people who made really awful remarks on Instagram wishing terrible things upon you. This man lost his brother and forgave the killer. This is so beautiful, and it touches my heart, and I want that kind of spirit about me someday. I want to be able to forgive the way this man has forgiven. Or even better, I want to be able to forgive the way Christ forgives. I think that's what we all want, what we all aim for Christians. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Truly, it's really, this was a lot harder to do than I expected. I really was trying not to cry because I don't like to listen to people cry. It's gross. I'm sorry. You listened to me snort a couple times because I should have put tissues next to me, but I expected to hold it together. So I apologize, and just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening. If you're a woman who's miscarried and you feel like sharing or you feel like reaching out, maybe some of your experiences, please do. You can email me at conservativebabes@gmail.com, or you can message me on Instagram. I always check those messages. It can take a little while, but I always do check them all and reply to all of them. So please reach out, and just have a beautiful, blessed rest of your day, rest of your week. God bless you. God bless America.